Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tiara Tuesday. My name is Lena Harmon, and I am your current Elite North America 2025. First of all, thank you for joining us this evening. And tonight, I have a very special guest with me today. It is Dr. Amy Jo Payne, and I'm excited. Let's welcome Amy. Amy, hi. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Great, thank you. So for those people that don't know, who you are, would you mind introducing yourself and your title?
Sure. I am Dr. Amy Jo Payne. I go by Amy Jo, right? I am the reigning Royalty USA Bluegrass State Miss 2026. So, hoping to compete for the national title in Charleston, South Carolina this coming September.
That's awesome. So, how many pageants is this that you've joined? You've done several, right?
I've done several, but nothing like most pageant girls.
Mhm.
Right? I'm a very late bloomer in the pageantry world.
Mhm.
Entered my first pageant at 51, 52, 54 now. And so, and that was the Petite USA system. And so I was with them for 2 years, and then I
Mhm.
competed in the Universal Petite, and now I'm with Royalty USA.
Yeah, because you were Miss USA, was it 2024 or
Yes, yes,
2024? Yes.
yes.
So, because I think that's where I met you, what, the first year that you competed, I think, in
Yeah,
23? Okay,
in 23, yeah.
23?
Yeah,
Okay.
Elite Miss Kentucky Petite in
Yeah.
23. You and I met, and then
Yeah.
I went back the next year, and
Hmm.
yeah.
And then you and I competed in the Universal Petite um a year ago. So that was
Yes,
fun.
it was.
Yeah. So on your I know you've held like several national titles over the years. How has your pageant journey evolved since your first competition?
Well, my first competition, I really consider to be, it was a fundraising pageant, if you will, on Facebook, right?
Mhm.
And so through that endeavor, it was fundraising, and I made it to the national semifinalists. So out of over 18,000 women, I made it to like the final 32.
Oh
Right? So
wow.
that was really inspiring. And I was like, ooh, maybe there's other things I could
It's
do like that.
something else.
Well, I'm too short, right? No, I'm on the petite system. I'm too old, right? At my
Yeah.
age. And so I didn't know, as far as the age divisions.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that they have categories like that now, and I'm glad that they do. It gives us women, more mature women, to have that opportunity to compete in the pageant system. So I'm grateful for that. So, what originally inspired you to step into the pageant stage, though? I mean, like I know you said you did that fundraiser thing and you enjoyed it. What kind of motivate you to keep going?
Well, I actually, it was something that just the momentum and having a following, having individuals in the community, the news media interested in what I was doing, and just the momentum and the excitement, and to know that, wow, this pageantry thing really gives you a voice, that, it means something. It's not just, the crowns, the
Yeah,
tiaras, and the gown, but it gives,
it gives
what,
you a platform and all that.
yeah.
It's community service, so it's fun. So as far as your platform, you do so much out there, and I do inspire you in what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about your platform?
Sure. My platform is called Turning It Up Green. It's the green being the cancer color for bile duct cancer, also known as cholangiocarcinoma,
Mhm.
and CCA, because it's a mouthful, right,
Mhm.
is a malignant cancer of the biliary tract system, those little slender tubes that carry the bile duct from the liver into the small intestines and through the gallbladder. And it was, my mother was diagnosed in 2016, and she lived a very short term thereafter. It's incredibly fatal cancer. And so after her death, I was like, I've really got to make her life and this message have meaning. And that
Now you spread that, like, I know you try to connect with other pageant girls out there to, get your platform promoted. Like, how far have you gone? Have you gone like international, other countries?
Yes, so far I've been able to get the education, advocacy, and awareness into over 25 US states. And going into Universal Petite last year, I had the cholangiocarcinoma information in the country's language of origin in 5 of the 7 continents. So it was huge. It's just great to pair up with pageant sisters and to spread and get that information out.
Get it out there. Yeah, it's a great way to get things, spread out there through the pageant system.
Yeah.
Get all the words out. So that's great. Okay, so you're a licensed clinical social worker working with veterans in suicide prevention. So what inspired you to pursue this career path?
Well, as a younger person, I wanted to actually join the military. I'm not a veteran, but I wanted to always join the military. And, one thing led to the other and then didn't lead to the other, right? But I've always felt I felt very patriotic and wanted to serve. And also coming from a rural community in Kentucky, seeing how individuals would go and come back, and there wouldn't be a lot of resources, right? And they were struggling with PTSD and substance issues and suicidality. And so, in 2012, I joined the mental health arena for the VA.
Okay. And I know, working with veterans can be emotional, and, sometimes demanding. How do you take care of your own well-being and your mental health?
The thrill and fun of pageantry has been a 180 of that life, right? Because you get to do fun things like this, right?
Yeah.
And also Pilates reformer. I found the reformer bed about 2 years ago, and it was something that my body was looking for, and it really caught on. And so I try to do Pilates reformer about 3 times a week.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we always try to think of, our happy place. Like for me, going on set, doing filming, I always tell everyone that's my happy place.
Yes,
it's so much fun. It's fun being on set, no matter how long you've been, you could be sitting there for hours. It's still fun.
Yes, you inspire me in that area. I would love to do that. So I forgot to do that. So yeah.
I thought you were doing something like that already. You're not doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to. You put your name out there in the ring. I know Hunting Wives is that the series on Netflix. I tried pretty, and it just, I think my height. I really do, because
You think so?
For that. I mean, so, but it seems so exciting.
Yeah, I think, like, as for me, they're always looking for stand-in, and I got lucky with this one with the lowdown, because one of the main actress is actually the same height as me and same hair color, and we kind of almost look the same, skin tone. So I've been her stand-in since season 1, and we're filming season 2 now. So, and that has Ethan Hawke in there, and a lot of other celebrities in there. So it's been fun, but we're supposed to be done filming the end of July. So after that, it'll slow down. So yeah, you need to check into that. And you could be the main actress. You don't have to be a stand-in.
Hook me up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you some information when we get off. So when you're working with like the veterans, back to the veterans, like have you like what have you learned from like, serving them, like, just by talking to them, have you learned anything like what that has impacted your life or anything? Like what lessons you've learned from them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've learned the lesson of not taking the small things so seriously. When you hear some of the stories and some of the impact that, being exposed to combat has created, you you learn very quickly that wow, I could see how coming back and the small things that you or I may be really upset about on a day-to-day basis, right? Just taking a breath and not sweating the small stuff. The other
Mhm.
is showing up and being your authentic self and
Yeah.
talking with them, having conversations, and just being like, hey, being showing up because they have an intuitive sense of
Mhm.
picking up when someone, the authenticity, and so it's just being yourself
Mhm.
and going. That builds trust, and someone, I believe, has to trust you before they will ever be convinced or that they'll follow you in a course of mental health treatment.
Right. Mhm. So if you could give one advice to someone who is struggling and feeling alone, what advice would you give them?
The piece of advice that I would give, first, I would want to normalize their hesitancy or their fear or whatever emotion they're feeling about not wanting to disclose how they're feeling to others. And then encourage, that once have a leap of faith, find that one person that you feel like is in your corner, that's going to believe you, that's going to be there for you at the end of the day, and just have a leap of faith. And because I found that once you disclose a little bit, it gets easier to talk about it a little more, then a little more, a little more, right? We call
Yeah.
that, right, opposite
Mhm.
action in therapy is going against that urge to really want to hide, go away, and isolate, but try to go toward share, disclose what you're comfortable with, right?
Yeah. Um, I know with your platform, it's to honor your mom. Like, would you like to share a little bit about your mom and how, she impacted, how her life had impacted in your life?
Yeah. My
Mhm.
mother was, I mean, she was 71 years old when
Mhm.
she passed, but her story, her survival, she was born actually what we call double club footed,
Oh,
right? So
wow.
she had over 27 surgeries. And we're talking 1944, 45, 46 to correct her feet. So she was, born into the world not being able to walk, and it's like once that was corrected, it's like nothing could stop her, and she was one of the hardest workers, right? And I'm an only child, and my father died when I was 14 months old, so it was just she and I for the longest, right? For
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So, and what she taught me was to be accepting of all people. Um, she left a very small town in Eastern Kentucky at 18
Mhm.
to move to Detroit, Michigan. And I was born in Michigan, but she wanted that life. She wanted, and so she loved all people. She rarely met a stranger. Anyone who met her loved her. And
Mhm.
so this legacy of turning it up green is, she wanted me to make her a promise. And she said, don't ever forget me. And every time I show up for my platform, indeed I
Mhm.
don't.
Yeah, you'll remember her. You'll never forget. So that's great. So what has been the most meaningful moment you've experienced while advocating for awareness?
The most meaningful was the moment I remember I was at the American Legion here
Mhm.
in Lexington, Kentucky. And I was speaking to veteran because they're Vietnam veteran in
Mhm.
particular are at a higher risk of being diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma. due to exposure from dioxin, which is a chemical found in Agent Orange, as well,
Mhm.
and also freshwater liver fluke exposure, so twofold. So I try to get out and I speak to veterans organizations separate of my role as a VA mental health worker, but as a uh, turning it up green, right? And so there was a moment in the when I was speaking to that group where an advocate for the Camp Lejeune water contamination
Mhm.
project was there, and so it was at that moment that I was able to connect a Vietnam veteran,
Mhm.
an advocate for the Camp Lejeune water contamination, and they started. And it was in that moment that I said, "This is why I'm here." Like I didn't say that, but I thought it like
Mhm.
to connect and pair people, and they made that connection. Right? It was
Yeah.
just a full circle moment. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't like the most a glamorous moment of things that I've accomplished and done. But it was in that moment that I realized this is why I am doing what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are your goals for the Turning Up Green for, over the next year?
Upcoming in August, I'm
Mhm.
going to have a booth at the Kentucky State Fair that's going to be
Mm.
for 10 days, right? But to get
Okay.
the information to thousands of people who are going to come through there, and hopefully also some political figures, right? It's election year
Yeah.
in Kentucky. So folks coming through and to bend their ear, right, for the rare cancer
Mhm.
funding. And there's a House bill that's currently on the desk of the Senate Committee for Veterans Affairs. And so you don't ever know who's going to come through there. And then February is cholangiocarcinoma Awareness Month, right? And always
Mhm.
the third Wednesday or the third Thursday of February is always World Cholangiocarcinoma Day. And that's a huge day of what we call lighting it up or turning it up. And
Mhm.
that's where you see folks trying to get buildings and um, parking garage and things of that nature lit up in honor of and awareness for bile duct cancer.
Okay. That sounds fun. Maybe I'll try to. I don't know how far Kentucky is from Oklahoma. Is that
It's
very far?
it's a haul. Yeah, it's
Maybe I'll come by and see you. I don't
do
mind driving.
fly.
Okay. Yeah. So, and I know, would you holding a lot of like multiple titles in the pageant? Like, what is your like? Was there a moment that stand out the most with your title?
With my title, it was
Mhm.
the day or the evening that I won. I was, you're shocked and it's like, oh wow, like me, what? But as I'm walking, and I have the crown on, you take your first walk, and I just remember like pointing up, and that was
Yeah.
a moment of one hand going, "Thank you, God," and the other, "Thank you, Mom." Right? I'm like, you, because I now looked up and I was just like, you too, like, and so that was just it was an unintentional moment, and
Mhm.
it was like, wow,
Like shocking. Sometimes you feel like it's not even real, right?
right?
It's just a dream.
Right.
So, yeah, I know how that feels. Um, so I know, like, a lot of people probably think that pageantry is just about wearing your crown and wearing sash and try to look beautiful. It's a lot more to that. And so, what do you think is the biggest misconception about pageants?
I think definitely the biggest misconception is that it's just sitting back waiting for the next
Mhm.
gala or the next, glamorous event. And it's not. I really believe that in pageantry, particularly at the national level,
Yeah.
I believe in being a working queen, right? Do not
Mhm.
let dust settle on the crown and sash and get out there. So, for me, it was helpful. I have to keep ahead of things, physically, keeping
Mhm.
ahead of things aesthetically, keeping ahead of things, platform wise, and making
Mhm.
sure that you have appearances and that you're getting out there, and then also being there for your state
Mm-hmm.
level queens, right?
Yeah.
And guiding them and bringing them in and on into the national competition, and having them feel that they're ready to compete for your
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, what qualities do you think makes an exceptional title holder?
I think definitely someone who is authentic, someone who is a queen for all of the people. It's very easy to be a queen for those that have done this a while. It's easy to, that you
Mm-hmm.
see them, it's like, oh wow, they've got the it factor, right? We talk about the it factor. But I think a genuine queen, an authentic queen, where someone can come into the pageantry system with no experience, feeling like, I don't know if this is the place for me, and grabbing their hand and saying, welcome, and let's do this, and meaning it, and I think also, loyalty to the system. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is a business as well as it is, anything else. And there's a brand associated, and,
Mm-hmm.
carrying yourself in a respectable manner and making the decisions not just for yourself, but also
Mm-hmm.
for the brand. That's
Yeah. Now, I know, like for me, I was hesitant to compete in a pageant because I thought, I'm too short, or I felt like I wasn't pretty enough, or it's too late because I'm too old. What advice would you give a woman considering her very first pageant and hesitate to do it because of a lot of other reasons?
right. The advice I give is you have to want it first the most, right?
Hmm.
Don't do this for anything or anybody else, because there's a lot of times that you're going to be by yourself. There's going to be some adversity, right? I mean, it's still a pageant, and it's still, there's all sides to coins, and no, and just believe in yourself, and make the time, carve the time. It's a definitely a time of being, I won't say selfish, because I don't think it is selfish. I think it's
Hmm.
self-care, putting yourself first, and having
Hmm.
others in your life, recognize that, I have to train, I have to do this event, I have to be here for that, and prepare and really take the time, and take what you're doing seriously and put in the work, because if you put in the work, it is not too late. Like I said, I joined pageantry at 51 years old. I'll be 55 this year. And,
Hmm.
my motto, they say, what's your pageantry motto? Or and my life started at 50, literally, for me. And it was a turning point, and pageantry was a huge part of
Hmm.
that. So make it your journey, your dream, and want it most.
Yeah. Now you've met several friends through pageantry, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you balance your, competition with building friendship in the
I
pageant?
think I think transparency and open
Mhm.
communication, making time that when you are at an event with your sister queens, that you're there in that moment. You're not on a phone. You're not worried about the next phase of, what's next on the schedule, or, the next agenda item, being
Mhm.
there in that moment. And then when you leave that moment, then turning that off, and then committing to, okay, I'm here. If it's competition week, focusing on that, and realizing that, there has to be a balance, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So there's just so many pageant systems out there. Some are, I feel like they're all kind of different. Um, if like, what's something on your, like, if there was something to change in the pageant system, like what would it be?
If
If you were to change, if there's something that needs to change.
if I could wave the wand, I know that electronic scoring is so convenient. I
Mhm.
know, I've judged and I know that I've been on both sides of the coin
Mhm.
with paper and pencil, and but I really like just the old days of this is your score, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
just, just, just I don't know. That's one thing. Tally Genie is a
Yeah,
great,
I've worked with
right?
that one. I had a hard time figuring it out.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get because it's so quick,
Mhm.
and I don't know. That's one thing
Mhm.
I would definitely take
Change
a
just back to the paper and pencil.
yeah, just go back to the old ways of that as far
Yeah. Yeah.
first.
No, paperwork can be a little bit difficult when there's, tons of stuff that you got to work with. Sometimes it gets a little bit, I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So on your I know you've done so much and stuff already, but is there anything in your like bucket list that you have not done that you would like to do?
Goodness. I definitely would love to go to Santorini, Greece. I do landscape
Mm.
photography. I'm an amateur,
Mm.
but I'm not like by any stretch of the imagination like a pro, but I do love to take landscape photos. And just from TV and movies, Santorini, Greece just looks like it would just be one of the most beautiful places. So that's definitely on my bucket list. Also, another thing on my bucket list is I would love to go to Amsterdam and see the Anne Frank house.
Oh, well,
That
that
part of
would be
history,
interesting.
that part of history is,
Mhm.
I don't know that fascinating is the right word given the circumstance, but the resiliency and the tenacity. I just would love to stand in that moment and just imagine what it was like.
What it was like. Yeah, that would be fun. Well, hopefully you get to do that someday soon. It'll be fun. So if you okay, just say someone comes to you and meets you for the first time, what is one thing that might surprise them about you? Like if I was to come and meet you, it's like, okay, what is it? Something that will surprise me about you?
Lena, you're going to be really surprised. After I graduated with my degree in criminal justice in 1996,
Uh-huh.
I interviewed for the FBI, the
Mm.
Federal Bureau of Investigation. I wanted to be, Silence of the Lamb. I wanted to be a behavioral analyst, and I passed the state level testing, and I made it to Baltimore. Actually, the field office they flew me there, and I actually had a field interview, and I didn't have the experience. They could say that experience didn't matter, but it really mattered. But I interviewed with the FBI.
Oh,
So
wow. That would be so interesting. That would be a cool job. That would be.
I, that was the day you remember Silence of the Lamb,
Yeah.
Jodie Foster, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was just so intrigued, and maybe that's what led me on to social work,
Mm-hmm.
clinical mental health, and
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm still intrigued with the psychology behind
All right.
that.
Mm.
So
Yeah, you could have get a job as what is that one? The crime. You're a doctor. So you could do that. Figure out how how the kind of examine the body. That would be interesting. Um,
did it shock you though? Are you shocked by the fact that
yeah, yeah.
it's
And
like,
you're
you
so
know,
little too.
right? Right. I remember getting on the elevator. There was 12 applicants, and so there was like very tall men and myself. So we all got on, not all, but several on the elevator, and
Uh-huh.
and then I'm in front, and the doors closed, and I could see myself, and they were like towering behind me, and I was just like,
Oh my
oh,
gosh.
so out of. And then when I go in the room, I'm offered a glass of water, and I declined it because I was afraid I would get choked, right?
Oh,
And so I joked and said, "Whatever you do, don't ever turn down the water. If they offer you a glass of water, take the
oh
glass of water."
no.
from that moment on, it was just like, I don't know, she's not our girl.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would have been really interesting. You got that. You get
Yeah.
into some. So we're probably gonna wrap it up pretty soon here, but I wanted to kind of like, just kind of go over some pageant stuff like what do you do to prepare yourself for the competition? Like do you like do deep breathing? Do you relax before you go out on stage?
I listen, there's just songs that, AC/DC is really big. Thunderstruck is really a big pump up song for me. Are you talking like right before
Yes,
competing
right
or
before you step.
right before? Yeah,
Mhm,
just being dressed on being timely, having
mhm,
everything in order so there's no gotcha moments, right?
mhm,
Having the shoes on and ready and
mhm,
being prepared and, um, just realizing that this is your moment. Deep
mhm,
breathing helps, yes,
mhm,
but also just there's something electrifying. When I walk on a stage, it's, like although that's out the window, I feel like
mhm.
I command it, this
Yeah.
is your moment, um, this is what you practiced for, this is what you've studied for, this is what you've trained for. Go out there and do it. Make them fall in love with you. Get that score. So
Yeah, as for me, I have a really hard time, with that pageant that you and I competed in. I didn't know what to do when it came to the on stage questions. That's one of my least, favorite. The evening gown is my favorite. But it's like, I have that anxiety and I always try to, okay, take a deep breath and stuff. But do you have any other advice, like what I need to do to, prepare myself before I step out on the stage?
deep breathing is really helpful.
Does that
Box
yeah.
breathing is an effective technique. Also, any grounding strategies like there's
Mhm.
a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method is a
Okay.
popular because when we ground our senses in the present moment, that really
Mhm.
slows the rumination of the past and
Mhm.
the fixation of the future. And I think also the deep breath really helps, but I mean, really trying to listen to the question and making sure that you're answering all parts of the question. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than you being the one that gets the two-part question and
Mhm.
you get nervous and you only answer part of that, right? So,
Mhm.
and just realizing that keep it central to your heart and
Mhm.
really answer as authentically as possible and
Mhm.
loop it back to your platform if you can,
Mhm.
not always, but I think just but I think those strategies going in and practice, practice, practice. I know before a pageant, I will actually schedule Zoom sessions with friends, and I'm like, "Just ask me anything." Like we're
Mhm.
doing right now, we'll schedule. Like, they will be like, "Okay, 6 o'clock," and they'll just hammer me with questions like, "Okay, name a time," or, and we'll, like, I'll look back at the pageant system that I'm competing in and what have been previous questions, and, like, I'll write those
Mhm.
and get those questions to them, and then have them ask me those questions, and it's
Yeah.
really paid off, right? We can
Mhm.
so so
What's your favorite part of the competition?
my favorite part of the competition, up until Universal, I would have it was all evening gown, and I think it's just such a glamorous moment, I think it takes extreme skill to be graceful, to be in those 6-inch heels, platform heels, to do the turns, to pause, and I just think I've just felt like so graceful, right?
Mhm.
Seconded by the interview because that's
Mhm.
the key moment when you get to meet your judges, they get to meet you and decide, okay, where's this one going to go in the lineup of things, right? Now, Universal, the fun the fun fashion
Uh-huh.
was I loved that. I mean, I had a blast preparing for that. I loved
Um,
my the wardrobe. I just the routine, and I
yeah.
just swirled around and I
Mhm.
loved it.
I
So,
love the for Universal. I love the costume.
yeah,
The costume
yes,
is so adorable.
yes, I
So
enjoyed that as well.
yeah. So I think we're, you know, ready to wrap up here. Do you have any other advice for anybody that's watching or anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah. I just, just go about this, be your authentic self. And I know,
Mhm.
everybody says, oh, just, you know, just be you and go about it, and be your authentic self. But seriously, at the end of the day, I think that judges and systems are looking for national or looking for queens that they can relate to, that they know is going to be dedicated, like I said, to their brand, as well as going to put a foot forward and get out there and inspire others to also want to be part of that system. So just approach it again. Uh, the worker queen, right? The one, don't let the dust settle on the crown and sash. This is
Right,
your year. Make it yours.
right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Amy Jo Payne, for joining me today. And it was so nice to see you again.
All right. You
Um,
too. You too.
yeah, I'll just keep in touch and good luck to you in your next adventure in your pageant. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All
Great.
right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. And I'd like to thank Dr. Amy Jo Payne again for joining me this evening. Um, Now we are about to do our pageant in July, but there is still time to apply if you are considering and competing. We would love to have you join the North America Sisterhood. You can go to the North America Facebook link and click apply or go to the website. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you also have by messaging us on our personal pages, Elite North America. So just reach out if you need any help with applying. Thank you.